You think you've seen scary? Wait till you face these nightmares. All running in 4K, HDR, and 60 frames a second on PS5. From haunted mansions to twisted minds, we're counting down the top 10 horror games you should play this Halloween. Some are cult classics, others brand new nightmares, but every single one will mess with your head. Let's step into the dark. A great horror game doesn't just make you scream, it stays with you long after the credits roll. The ones that haunt you when you turn off the console. In this list, we're focusing on games that hit both ends of the spectrum. The modern cinematic terrors and the old-school nightmares that refuse to die. So grab your headset, dim the lights, and let's start from the bottom. All right, let's kick this list off with a creepy throwback that hits way harder than you'd expect. Tormented Souls brings back true old-school survival horror. Slow, tense, and absolutely unforgiving. You play as Caroline Walker, trapped inside a crumbling mansion full of puzzles, flickering lights, and monsters that look like they crawled straight out of your nightmares. Fixed camera angles keep you guessing what's around every corner, and half the time, you probably don't want to know. Released in 2021, this one's a pure survival horror experience built for old souls. The main story runs about 10 to 12 hours, but if you're chasing that platinum trophy, expect closer to 25. Trophy difficulty lands around 6 out of 10. Fair, but those mirror saves will test your patience. On PS5, it runs smooth at 4K 60 frames per second, with ray-traced reflections and full HDR10 support. It's only 10 gigabytes, but don't let that fool you. This mansion packs more atmosphere than most AAA horror games. No crossplay or save transfer, but DualSense haptics add tension to every heartbeat and door creak. Metacritic score sits at 70, but don't sleep on it. This is a cult favorite that nails the eerie tone modern horror sometimes forgets. You can usually grab it for under 20 bucks, and it's even appeared on PS Plus Extra. Perfect for a late-night scare session. I'll be honest, the camera can get janky. And yeah, I may have screamed after dying 5 minutes before a save room. But that's the kind of pain horror fans secretly love. This one's made for the real survival horror veterans. If you still check every corner, save only at typewriters, and call green herbs healing juice, this game's for you. Classic horror never really died. It just cleaned up its face, slapped on 4K textures, and came back looking terrifyingly good. Caroline crawled, so Jill Valentine could sprint, in heels. If you've ever played a horror game that makes you afraid to blink, that's MADiSON, and it's every bit as cursed as it looks. You wake up locked in a blood-stained house, armed only with a Polaroid camera that can reveal things your eyes can't. Every snapshot feels like a jump scare waiting to happen. Released in 2022, it's a psychological horror built around exploration and puzzle solving. The story runs roughly 8 to 10 hours, and a full platinum trophy takes about 15 to 18 if your nerves hold up. Trophy difficulty sits around 7 out of 10. Not hard to play, just hard to survive mentally. On PS5, you get 4K HDR visuals, 3D audio support, and full DualSense vibration when the camera flashes, which feels way too real at 2 in the morning. The file size is light at 12 gigabytes, and the performance stays smooth at 60 frames per second. Metacritic, 72. IGN scored it 7 out of 10, and Shacknews gave it a 9, calling it the scariest indie of the decade. There's no crossplay or save transfer, but honestly, once you finish it, you probably won't want to replay it immediately. It's that intense. The atmosphere is incredible, but fair warning, the pacing dips in the middle, and the story goes full fever dream. Still, it sticks the landing hard. This one's for fans of PT, Visage, or Outlast. If you love horror that gets under your skin, not just in your face, you're gonna adore this one. Sometimes the real monster isn't what you see. It's what your brain makes up in the dark. Every photo you take is basically a therapy session waiting to happen. Cronos, the New Dawn, takes the old-school horror formula and blasts it straight into orbit. It's body horror meets sci-fi thriller. Think Dead Space crossed with Event Horizon. Every death rewinds time, warping the environment and mutating your character. Released in 2025, it's a sci-fi survival horror that mixes action and slow-burn exploration. Story time clocks around 12 to 14 hours, while the Platinum Trophy takes roughly 30 because of multiple endings. Trophy difficulty? 7 out of 10, mostly due to tight resource management. On PS5, it runs at 4K 60 frames per second with ray-traced shadows, and HDR10 brings every flicker of red emergency lighting to life. The game weighs in around 25 gigabytes and supports cross-save between PS5 and PC, a nice bonus. Metacritic, 83. IGN gave it a 7, calling it an atmospheric, introspective survival horror. Combat's a bit clunky, but world design and sound direction are top tier. It's not the scariest game, but it's one of the most interesting. You'll keep thinking about what it all meant long after the credits roll. If you loved Alien Isolation or Dead Space, and still think Deep Space is the worst place to be alone, this one's calling your name. Cronos proves one thing. The farther we go into space, the closer we get to something we were never meant to find. In space, no one can hear you panic or miss your last reload. Imagine being trapped on an oil rig in the middle of the North Sea. No weapons, no escape, and something hunting you in the dark. That still wakes the deep. It's atmospheric, it's tense, and it's terrifying in that quiet, realistic way. Released in 2024, this is a first-person narrative horror that focuses on story, sound, and immersion over combat. You'll finish the main story in about 6 hours, and trophy hunters can expect 8 to 10 for completion. Difficulty's around 4 out of 10, since it's all about exploration and surviving moments, not fighting. On PS5, it runs at 4K 30 frames per second cinematic mode, or 1440p 60 if you prefer smoother gameplay. HDR10 lighting and realistic ocean physics make it stunning to look at. File size is about 22 gigabytes, and it features 3D audio that makes every metal groan feel like it's right behind you. Metacritic, 80, with reviewers praising its storytelling and art direction, though some said the ending feels abrupt. If you like horror that whispers instead of screams, this is your kind of nightmare. Sometimes the scariest monsters aren't hiding in the dark. They're the ones inside your headset. Oil rig job listing. Must handle isolation, bad weather, and unspeakable terror. If Twin Peaks had a nightmare, Alan Wake 2 would be the script. You play as two characters, writer Alan Wake trapped in a dark dimension, and FBI agent Saga Anderson unraveling the mystery on the outside. It's a psychological spiral drenched in cinematic storytelling. Released in 2023, it's a psychological thriller horror that blends third-person action and narrative exploration. Story time is around 18 to 20 hours, and full completion or platinum takes 35 to 40. Trophy difficulty sits at 7 out of 10, mostly for the collectibles. On PS5, you get 4K HDR, performance mode 60 frames, or quality mode with ray tracing. File size is hefty at 85 gigabytes, and load times are nearly instant thanks to the SSD. No cross-save, but this one's built purely for PS5 hardware. Metacritic, 89, and critics called it one of the most ambitious horror sequels ever made. The pacing can be slow, but the atmosphere, pure art. If you love cinematic horror with brains, not just blood, this one's your dream, or your nightmare. Alan Wake 2 proves stories can hurt more than bullets, and you'll feel every word. Writer's block? Try being stuck inside your next book. Gothic castles, werewolves, vampires, and one very tall lady. Resident Evil Village isn't subtle, but it's stylish, intense, and wildly replayable. It's both a sequel and a celebration of everything Resident Evil has ever been. Released in 2021, this action horror hybrid runs about 10 hours for the main campaign and around 20 for a platinum run. Trophy difficulty sits at 6 out of 10. Manageable, but Mercenaries mode adds a challenge. On PS5, it runs buttery smooth at 4K 60, supports HDR10, and uses adaptive triggers to make every shotgun blast feel brutal. The file size is about 35 gigabytes, and cross-save is available with the PS4 version. Metacritic, 83, and reviewers still call it the most entertaining modern Resident Evil. It even includes a free third-person mode and VR support for extra immersion. Fans of Resident Evil 4 or anyone who wants blockbuster horror without losing sleep. If you want a blockbuster horror that still feels personal, welcome home. If horror had royalty, this one wears the crown and 9-foot heels. Capcom said, "You wanted tall vampire lady?" And gamers said, "Yes, very yes." When it comes to sci-fi horror, Dead Space still sets the gold standard. The 2023 remake isn't just a facelift. It's a full resurrection of one of the most terrifying games ever made. You play as engineer Isaac Clarke, stuck on a mining ship overrun by necromorphs. No cutscenes, no safe zones, just you, your plasma cutter, and a whole lot of screaming. Released in 2023, this is pure survival horror in space. The story runs about 12 to 15 hours, and a platinum trophy takes 25 to 30. With a trophy difficulty of 7 out of 10, mainly for the impossible mode. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. On PS5, the remake supports 4K 60 FPS in performance mode, or 30 FPS with full ray tracing in quality mode. HDR lighting and 3D audio make the Ishimura feel alive, in the worst possible way. The install size is 50 gigabytes, and it includes cross-save with PS4. Metacritic, 89, with critics praising its atmosphere, sound design, and precision combat. Few remakes feel this respectful and this fresh at the same time. Perfect for players who loved Alien Isolation, or anyone who wants to experience horror that's equal parts science and insanity. If you miss that feeling of holding your breath in a dark corridor, this one's a masterpiece. Dead Space proves horror doesn't need jump scares when sound alone can ruin your nerves. Isaac doesn't need therapy. He is the therapy. From the creators of Soma and the original Amnesia, this one traps you underground, alone in a decaying World War I bunker with only a crank flashlight, a revolver, and your nerves. Every sound echoes. Every movement matters, because whatever's hunting you learns. Released in 2023, Amnesia: The Bunker is a first-person survival horror built entirely around player freedom and fear management. There are no scripted jump scares, just a creature that reacts to sound, light, and your panic. The story takes around 5 to 7 hours, and the platinum completion runs close to 12, depending on how many times you dare to reload your save. Trophy difficulty? Around 6 out of 10. Simple goals, brutal execution. On PS5, it runs smoothly at 4K 60 frames per second, with full HDR10 lighting and some of the best environmental audio in the genre. The file size is small, about 10 gigabytes, but the tension inside that bunker could fill 100. There's no cross-play or save transfer, but the 3D audio and dual-sense feedback make it terrifyingly immersive. Metacritic, 77, with critics calling it a masterclass in minimalist horror. It's short, tight, and designed for replay. No two runs ever feel the same. I'll be honest, I rage quit once when my flashlight died mid-chase, and I swear I could hear the thing breathing right behind me through my headphones. That's how real it feels. If you're into Alien Isolation, Soma, or the Outlast Trials, This is your next claustrophobic nightmare. Amnesia, the bunker, proves you don't need darkness to be afraid. You just need the silence that comes before it. Crank your flashlight and your courage. You can't make a horror list without Resident Evil 4. The 2023 remake isn't just nostalgia, it's perfection in motion. Leon's back, the village is creepier than ever, and the new parry system makes every encounter feel cinematic. Released in 2023, this action survival horror masterpiece takes around 12 to 15 hours for the main story, and roughly 30 for a platinum run. Trophy difficulty sits at 7 out of 10, with hardcore and professional modes giving veterans a real workout. On PS5, it's pure showcase material. 4K 60 FPS, optional ray tracing, and lightning-fast load times thanks to the SSD. The file size is 67 gigabytes, and cross-save is supported from PS4 to PS5. Metacritic, 93. And almost every major outlet called it the perfect remake. This is Capcom at its absolute best, balancing action, tension, and pure fear flawlessly. Newcomers, veterans, speedrunners, everyone. If you play one horror game this year, make it this one. This one's the gold standard. Resident Evil 4 Remake didn't just raise the bar, it is the bar. Leon's hair physics alone deserve a Game of the Year award. And finally, the return of a legend. Silent Hill isn't just another reboot. It's a haunting reimagining of what psychological horror can be. Set in 1960s Japan, written by Ryukishi 07, this one blends traditional Japanese horror with Silent Hill's trademark melancholy. Released in 2025, it's a psychological horror experience focused heavily on story, symbolism, and dread. The main campaign runs 12 to 14 hours, and a platinum completion takes about 25. Trophy difficulty sits at 5 out of 10. Accessible, but emotionally, it's a 10. On PS5, it runs beautifully at 4K 60 FPS, with ray-traced global illumination and HDR10 support. File size is around 45 gigabytes, and load times are practically instant. No crossplay, but full DualSense haptics make every heartbeat feel real. Metacritic, 86, with critics praising its poetic writing and terrifying atmosphere. The pacing is slower, the scares subtler, but it stays with you long after. Perfect for fans of Silent Hill 2, and anyone who prefers slow, psychological dread over loud jump scares. If you love psychological horror that's slow, poetic, and utterly unsettling, welcome back to the fog. Silent Hill doesn't just revive a franchise, it revives the art of horror itself. When the petals start falling, it's already too late. So there you have it. 10 horror games worth losing sleep over this Halloween. From the haunted mansions of Tormented Souls to the poetic nightmares of Silent Hill, each one brings something unforgettable to PS5. Which one are you brave enough to start with? Drop your pick in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more PS5 gameplay, PS5 Pro performance tests, and cinematic reviews every week here on PS5 Gameplay Hub. Play scared, play smart, and happy Halloween.